Hi, my name is Harrison Taylor, and this is my presentation over Module 8, the case study that's titled Get This Child Out of My Room. This case study is all about a student with an IEP who displaying some negative behaviors in a gen ed classroom in about a first year special education. Her teacher, her name is Susan, and her struggling with some of the challenging things that go along with Carl's behaviors, especially in the gen ed classroom, and dealing with the gen ed teacher, the parents, the size of the district, kind of the lack of administration in her building, are all challenges that she has to face. Um, The first category that I went through is problem identification and analysis. So, the problem is the behaviors that Carl is exhibiting in class. He's a student with an IEP. He's displaying some aggressive physical behavior towards himself and others, and some threatening things that are obviously issues. But he has no academic intellectual deficits, so he has the ability to do well in the core content. Um, the general education teacher does not want Carl in the room. She's kind of a veteran teacher. Special education teacher is brand new, which definitely adds a different dynamic. And she doesn't want him in class because of what she's seen in class has concerned her, and she's worried about it. And then also, Carl's parents, just had some turmoil, and not the perfect family life for this student to go through, dealing with some of these issues. They're very distracted. Carl lacks the attention at home. Maybe he's trying to seek some of that out at school. All of this is definitely going into the problem of the behavior he's presenting in class. Things that I need to know are, some more detail on Carl's behavior plan, and is it being fully implemented in the classroom? If the general education teacher is not following the IEP, that would definitely cause an issue as to how this is all taking place. Also, it'd be really beneficial to see, how often are these behaviors happening, and just in the past and other classes in previous years, what has that been like? Is he showing these same behaviors when he's at music or PE, for instance? These are all factors that would definitely make a difference. And then also, are there any outside resources that the family has that they can use? Are they using any? And if not, are there any tools that the district has, or maybe some tools that they would recommend? Um, Now the next problem identification. Going on further with that, he's a special education student. We mentioned that. He has a lot of displaying negative behaviors. The teacher would like him out of the room, and the special education teacher is in her first year. She's struggling with the exact way to, do what's best for Carl, and also help out the class and the teacher. And so it's just a lot of different things pulling her different directions. It's this really small district where they have to share administration and special education services, and just spread pretty thin. So tough, situation for a first year teacher. And then on my plan of action, went through several steps, but you'd have to, obviously gather the data, make sure you're making the right decisions, and then build a behavior intervention that will work for him. So the first step would be to review the records. If possible, I'd like to talk to the previous special education teacher. That would be really beneficial to get her insight and what it was like when she worked with him. And then maybe previous general ed teachers, just people that have worked with Carl in the past. Maybe they have some tips or things that work. And then also looking at past IEPs and evaluations, should have access to those, and any other documentation that kind of may lead to some strategies, or just help understand what Carl's going through. Next, we do some data collection. So I'd like to find out when is the behavior happening, and then how often. So that can either be taken with maybe a para, or have the special education teacher Susan sit in class and track what's causing the behavior, how often does it happen, is there a clear antecedent that leads to it. These are all really important things that can help address the behavior. And then also then I would implement intervention. So I would suggest an intervention, positive intervention with I like to have a lot of incentives if possible. So you could do strategies such as giving Carl little like fare tickets for every 30 minutes or hour that he's doing well in class and there are no outbursts, and then he can track it for prizes. And you can also use this kind of system to see how often is it happening on a daily basis. Is it getting better? Is it getting worse? Is the intervention happening? And so that would, I think, be beneficial. And then hopefully this would resolve the issue, this intervention strategy, and helping him to kind of take control of what's going on may, in a positive way, and help manage his own behavior, and could really be beneficial. So obviously we want him in the general education classroom as much as possible. We don't want to pull him out. That's the least restrictive environment. And inclusive environment in school is really important. So we want him in class, and hopefully the strategy would allow us to do that. The strategy helps the classroom environment overall, because Carl's behavior is a distraction at the end of the day. And if we can eliminate or decrease this distraction, that would be really beneficial to the class. And then also this could help to build a relationship between Mrs. Taylor, the gen ed teacher, and Carl. Building this positive relationship could really turn this into a positive thing, and help him to learn, and the class to operate better, and just to help build that relationship. Going through this case study caused quite a bit of reflection on things I saw and read, and some of my experiences teaching special ed kind of went into this. So it's kind of disappointing that Carl's so disconnected in his relationship with his parents. In my experience, those family lives really make a big difference on how the student does in school. Mrs. Taylor, the gen ed teacher, seemed to back off, and she wanted to kind of throw up her hands and not dig in to help Carl out. And then it'd be nicer if he had more structure at home, and maybe there's more professionals that could help out, and more all hands on deck type of thing would be much better. I thought it was very beneficial. It would have been really beneficial if the new sped teacher had a mentor, like an administrator she could go to on a regular basis. It didn't seem from the case study this was the case, and that's always been really beneficial for me. And if you don't have anybody to talk to and lean on, it becomes really difficult really quickly. I think that small school dynamic makes it really challenging. There's not as much support and other professionals in the building to help out. No administrator. All those things are going to make it a big challenge for sure. And I also think the fact that she's a first year teacher definitely puts a wrinkle in this case study. An experienced teacher has maybe dealt with students like this before, and other teachers, and they have some different insight with that. I really valued that the special ed teacher was willing to try to find solutions, do her best, work with the teacher and the student. She really seemed digging in and passionate from what I read. She was also more than willing to communicate with parents, trying to meet with them. I know that can be a challenge, especially in some of the tougher homes, for sure. And then also I thought Mrs. Taylor was trying to have the best classroom environment. Maybe not the best strategy to just pull Carl out of class, but I think she was trying to do what's best for the group as a whole, as far as she was concerned. Some other things, some unresolved issues that I saw, was, it would have bbeen better if they could have built more relationship with the parents, maybe more communication, giving updates, trying to go back and forth, and kind of tag teaming for the situation between the parent and the school. Another thing I saw is I'm not going to know if this intervention is going to work or not. Obviously, that's what the data is for, collecting as you give the intervention, because if this system with the incentives doesn't work, then you're going to have to try something else. Obviously, make sure you have the consequences in place and all those things. And then, another unresolved issue was, is Mrs. Taylor going to follow through with the plan in place? Ultimately, as a special education teacher, I think Susan has her hands tied a little bit as to what the general education teacher is willing to implement and follow through with in her classroom. For standard 2, some of the evidence we have going with that for component 1 on promoting the academic success of every student. The social emotional needs are going to need to be addressed first to help have the academic success of every student. So knowing, Carl's past and his family history and what he's going through and trying to have an understanding of this helps you to choose the best strategies to help him have success. The behavior intervention that was proposed hopefully will help him manage his behaviors and allow him to focus on doing well in the classroom academically. And then also keeping Carl in that gen ed environment is going to help him progress the most academically. The more he gets pulled out, I think the more he is going to create some deficits in his learning. For sure. Component 2 on the well-being of every student. I think that helping the teachers manage, give them strategies on how to manage these behaviors. That's going to increase the safety for all students. He's displaying some negative physical things in class, and if you can, eliminate or decrease that, that's going to increase safety for everyone. Working collaboratively with teachers and parents and other professionals is really going to be what's best for Carl and other students, making sure that they're doing the best they can, socially, emotionally, and across the board. Finally, administrators, sped teachers, gen ed teachers, they've got to work together in making sure that they do their best to provide, have the best well-being for each student. I think in this case study, they were attempting to do this, but kind of were falling short. And I think that, Susan kind of got frustrated after a while, and she's like, well, we'll just, do what the gen ed teacher is recommending, even though it's probably not the best thing. I think, an administrator helping out with this would have made a big difference, helping coordinate, helping to follow through, and, giving that different playing field type of perspective. And then finally, enhancing instructional capacity. So this teamwork between the staff would have made the situation a lot easier. Seemed like Susan was coming a little late on some of the behaviors that were happening, and the gen ed teacher didn't really want to work with the special education teacher. She just wanted the student out of the room, and it would have been best to, work together to do what's best for all students and be on the same page. I thought the special education teacher helping to provide the strategies such as behavior intervention I spoke about would help take care of some of the classroom management. And then the teacher can focus more on instruction and content and just kind of bringing all the resources together and making the best of the situation, and then also using the data to drive the classroom decisions and management will help this intervention work, making sure it's working, and this data can help drive instruction for students and make sure that help to allow students to focus on the academic needs and everything that they need to accomplish. So overall, I thought this case study was intriguing. As a special education teacher, there's a lot of information that I would like to know that I think you probably would in a lot of situations. But I think it, could have been handled better. Obviously tough for a first year teacher, but it's good to look at case studies like this so you can, I can kind of go through the steps I would follow as a administrator and kind of put myself in that role.